Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. This video is created thanks to Modern Expo, one of the key players in the world's parcel locker market. Modern Expo's product portfolio includes innovative solutions with refrigeration and freezing cells, Bluetooth locks, and even personal parcel lockers. Marek, the Royal Mail dispute is getting uglier by the day. Well, it's getting a little bit, I hesitate to use the word personal as well. Let's just, but there's something I really want to mention first of all, because it came out in the press just recently in the UK that the Royal Mail has actually asked the government for permission to reduce the number of letter delivery days from 6, which is the current mandate or obligation, to 5. And the government said no. I thought, well, that's an interesting little development there. So we had speculated in one of our earlier videos that this might be a trigger with the current dispute, and the ongoing reported losses might be something that the Royal Mail management uses as a lever, shall we say, to ask for regulatory relief in the form of reducing the number of letter delivery days per week. And the government has said no. So that's one thing I wanted to mention, Marek, in sort of this long-winded introduction here, everybody. The other thing that I've noted, a couple of other things. I've noticed that the union messaging has changed, Marek, and that the union is trying to sort of regain control of the narrative, because the narrative in the mainstream media has been very much this dispute is about posties wanting more, and the CWU is trying to change that narrative, so it was not limited to pay and conditions. It's about more than that. It's about the future of the post. And just in the last 24 hours, as we're recording this, Marek, the union has basically amped up its rhetoric even further and is basically calling for the Royal Mail CEO to be sacked. Marek, in your history as a manager of delivery companies, and you've had no doubt discussions with unions a number of times, and sometimes discussions with the unions, I'll be perfectly honest, can be, what will we say, frank. Have they ever called for you to be sacked?
Hello, Ian. Hello, everybody. Well, the simple answer is no. But having said that, I've worked in businesses where I've had 7,000 or more people, and you'll be surprised to hear there's never been a union. And the reason, I think this is really important, unions are there where management and employees are not able to find a good tool to communicate. So, I can say what I did. I actually took the people that were most vocal and made them an advisory board reporting to me. And I really did listen. And by the way, a lot of the stuff these guys had to say was very, very sensible. And so what happened is if the workers, the employees, the stakeholders of the business felt that they were being listened to, and that actually this advisory board really, we met regularly, I really listened to what they said. And it's very difficult then to get upset with the management if the management is listening to you, is implementing what can be, and if it cannot be, it explains and discusses with the advisory board as to why. So I even had a scenario in one business where we were really in trouble. Actually, I think in worse trouble than Royal Mail is, because that particular business was, when I came in, losing 50 cents in the dollar, which I think is about as bad as it gets. I won't say which business, it was another state-owned company. And together with the employees who took a heavy pay cut, we were able to turn it around. But I think it's all about how you do it. Of course, the management, including me, we all took a pay cut. I'm not sure what's happening here, so I don't want to be unfair to the Royal Mail management. But, whereas my colleagues in a similar role were driving Mercedes and BMW cars, I was driving a Ford at the time because I felt it was inappropriate for me to be seen, to be spending money on a car like that when the company is in trouble. So I think it's how you sell it, Ian.
And that's a really important message, there is how you sell it. And the messaging from Royal Mail, I mentioned this in a previous video, I don't think has been helpful. I don't think it's been top class messaging to workers and to the general public, because the general public are looking at this. And no doubt, Marek, business customers are looking at all this as well. Now, the more strike action has been announced, and if I recall correctly, the 2 days before Christmas, there'll be strike action. There's strike action occurring over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and peak shopping and therefore delivery periods like this. In another market that will remain nameless, there were strikes in the lead up to Christmas, and that was in a competitive parcels market, and that company just lost volume. And the volume, I'm not sure the volume ever came back. It might have come back thanks to the pandemic, but I'm not suggesting that unions should, give up their right to strike. I'm asking a question of you, I suppose, Marek. What do you think from a business perspective? What could happen if strike action takes place in these, what should we call them, critical shipping days?
My view is it's already happened. A lot of the damage is done because customers who perhaps would never have bothered thinking about an alternative will be forced to. So just by virtue of the fact, even if the strike doesn't finally happen, already today, any sensible partner will have to take a contingency, some kind of contingency action, and they will have found an alternative. So, and once someone is integrated with another carrier, the damage is done, or a lot of the damage is done. So I reckon that this is a highway to hell. Nobody is winning. Even if the management are right economically, because it's about, I think, trying to, one of the union leaders I listened to was saying, well, we can't have this, we can't have all this automation and less personalized service. That's the way the market's going. I think there needs to be some kind of compromise that's found. But obviously the management has been unable to do this in a way that is non-confrontational and to share it with the guys and girls out there at the front line in a manner that, is considered understandable, reasonable, and vice versa. I think it's got to the point where both sides are at fault. The unions are as well, are not willing to accept, it seems from the comments I've heard, that, there does need to be change. The fact is the business is losing, I think it's over 1 million a day now, and that's just not tenable.
The broader question for any postal operator right now is, how do you transition the business from letters first, parcels secondary, to being parcels first, letters secondary? That's a really, it's a difficult question to grapple with, Marek, isn't it? Because when you think about just the nature of delivering letters versus the nature of delivering parcels, you might be still going out there doing a milk run and delivering, but it's not exactly the same. But there's one thing that was troubled me a little bit, Marek. You might not have seen this article. There was an article a week or so ago noting that some Royal Mail, or alleging that some Royal Mail managers were directing posties to prioritise certain classes of letters and leave other letters behind. And I don't like this idea of a degradation of service. Now, you used the phrase highway to hell before. I think the degradation of service can be a highway to hell as well. I think you have to still maintain a quality of service so that when people post a letter or a parcel, there is an understanding of when it will arrive, that it's not going to be sort of shunted off and dealt with later on.
I think it's more about, Ian, the two sides coming together and understanding they're building a business and a future together, or not. Both sides are amiss, because when the unions say it's all about delivering a proper service, it's not. It's about them wanting to maintain the sort of terms and conditions and lifestyle they had in the past, which is possible, but only if you automate and create efficiency. My famous and favorite story about an in-post courier being able to deliver over 1,000 parcels a day, whereas a traditional best-in-class courier being able to deliver 150. Now, those savings can be shared in some way with all stakeholders, including the employees, but you've got to be prepared to take the step forward. On the other hand, the management, I think, has got to the stage that, whether they're right or wrong in all respects, you can't just blame the unions for everything. I think you need dialogue, because without dialogue, we can see in the world of politics what happens.
Yes, this is one of the challenges of dealing with an issue like this, where you're dealing with whether it's pay and conditions or the future of a network, is being able to communicate between, say, in this instance, the post and the union, or it could be just with any stakeholder group, being able to communicate, but communicating also means listening. And I've come across examples in my own professional life where people have tried to tell me stuff and say, this is how it's going to be, without actually saying, well, hang on, let's actually have a conversation about it. There needs to be two-way communication. And it can be really difficult when you're I can put myself in the union's shoes, with my work experience, that when you're listening to something you think is absolute rubbish, how do you restrain yourself from saying something daft that might, and I'm not saying that the union said anything daft, but personally, how do you restrain yourself from saying something that could impede your ability to reach a mutually acceptable solution to whatever the problem is, whether it's strategic or immediate or relating to a particular product or a service or a dispute in a local area, whatever it might be. Very, very difficult skills to maintain in the face of what can sometimes be a very emotive issue that you can see is directly affecting your members. Marek, do you have any final comments? Because I know we've covered a wide range of topics here, but it's one of these disputes that everybody around the world can look at and say, well, I can identify it in some respect. Whether you're in North America or in Asia or Europe or wherever, you can sort of look at it and say, well, I can identify some of these issues here. Do you have any final comments, Marek, before we wrap up?
I just really love the guys to sit down and really come up with something constructive. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, nobody wins. The consumer doesn't win. The taxpayer, who's probably going to have to bail them out sometime sooner or later, is not going to win. The management will not win, and the unions won't win. So, let's see. I really hope that there's going to be some kind of breakthrough.
Thanks for watching this video on YouTube. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and the notifications bell. Whack a comment down below. Tell us what you think. Certainly, there's been lots of full and frank discussion in some of these videos, some of these YouTube comment sections, Marek. They're all quiet over on LinkedIn. Everybody's quiet, and on YouTube, it's just gone bananas. So please do like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Helps us keep producing these videos for you. Marek Różycki, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.